Welcome to the simple sentence. We've already learned the key components to a simple sentence. We just didn't put a name to it. As a reminder, all sentences, no matter how basic or how sophisticated they get, are going to include at least 5 elements. The higher up the sentence is, the more complex it is, the more elements it's going to add in, and the more it's going to change our basic constructs around. However, our simple sentence is very basic, it is short, it is sweet, it is 5 elements. It is the 5 elements we've learned that all sentences have. A simple sentence does not have anything additional. That is why it is simple. A reminder of our 5 elements is our subject, our verb, our objects for academic writing, our complete thought, and remember that our complete thought has 2 sub-elements of one main point and no unanswered question. And then we have our end punctuation. These 5 elements, when all put together, is going to give us a simple sentence. The definition of a simple sentence is an independent clause with end punctuation. If you back up a little bit, you will hopefully remember that our clauses, there are 2 types. There's the independent clause and the dependent clause. Our independent clause comes into play with our simple sentence. It is one clause with end punctuation. Do not confuse the simple sentence with a dependent clause because remember, dependent clauses cannot stand on their own. They need to attach to an independent clause. Because our simple sentence is only one clause, there's only one clause that it can be, and that's the independent clause. Again, the definition of a simple sentence is an independent clause with end punctuation. You'll need to further define what an independent clause is to make sure that you're including all of the components of our simple sentence. The full definition is a simple sentence is an independent clause with end punctuation. An independent clause contains 4 elements: a subject, verb, an object if writing for academics, and a complete thought. Define it a little bit further to include our complete thought. A complete thought has one main point and no unanswered questions. 3 sentences are needed to define what our simple sentence is and to get all of our elements in. If you just memorize that a simple sentence is an independent clause with end punctuation, you may forget the elements of the independent clause. Remember, both of our clauses have 4 elements. The last element is what is different. They are the exact opposite to each other. An independent clause with end punctuation. Our independent clause has a noun or a pronoun, a verb, a noun or a pronoun. It fills these 3 things, these 3 parts of sentences. If there were 3 lines, one marked noun or pronoun, the next marked verb, the next marked noun or pronoun, with a period at the end. If you fill in the 3 blanks with a minimum of 3 words, you can have a simple sentence. Again, as I discussed in a previous video, at this point, and with our simple sentences, I urge you not to put anything before the subject. If you do, you might accidentally introduce something that takes it out of the realm of a simple sentence and transforms it completely into something else. That something else might have different elements or different requirements, and you may accidentally no longer have a simple sentence. And if our goal is a simple sentence, you don't want to end up with anything but a simple sentence. So at this point, nothing before the subject. We will be adding things before our subject during the 3rd and final construct, but we're not there yet. So first fill in the blank is a noun or pronoun that acts as your subject. The next is your verb. Remember, there are 3 types of verbs. If you've forgotten what the 3 types of verbs are, now is a great time to go back to the verb video and get a refresher. And then our noun and pronoun. Again, if you can't remember what this is, go ahead and go back to that video for a refresher there as well. The complete thought isn't something you write, so there's only 3 fill in the blank spaces to make our sentence, but it's something that you mentally check off. So you want to check off that you have a complete thought, and that equates to 1 main point. So in your 3 fill in the blanks, you can only have 1 main point. You don't want to start talking about multiple main points, because then it's not a simple sentence. Remember, simple is, it really can't get any more basic than that. I know the simple sentences, when you start writing them and when you read them, it will make you feel like a middle schooler again. I totally get that. However, in order to practice and in order to build our way up to the complex sentences that are more adult style, we have to get the basics. You will learn that even the most complex sentences are simple sentences, adding elements and joining them together. So we won't stay at simple sentences, though they are useful. As I've mentioned, the goal of writing is to keep our reader intrigued. It doesn't matter what the purpose of your writing is. We don't want to bore our readers. Giving the reader a combination of simple sentences, complex, compound, mixing up the order, it makes the reading as interesting as possible. Sometimes we have to do writing and correspondence that isn't itself very exciting. However, using a system of mixing up your sentence types can at least elevate the interest of your writing at least a little bit, no matter how dry or boring your topic is. If you're taking this course for academics, I know you might be in a research class. I know research writing, it is boring, it is dry, it is dull. No one wants to do it. However, you can take a dry subject and you can write it well. And this is how you do it. You start with a simple sentence and you progress from there. It is very important. Please don't skip the simple sentences thinking that it's far too easy and move on, because I promise you, the simple sentence is your foundation to everything else. If you don't master your simple sentence and you skip right ahead, you're going to get yourself completely lost. Especially if you're struggling with your grammar and you recognize the fact that you do need help in fixing your grammar, it is so much simpler to start from scratch and to compose perfect sentences the first time than to take very messy, overdone sentences and try to fix them. So in this course, we are learning to form perfect sentences the first time around. It isn't always easy to perform perfectly in a lot of things. However, sentences are different. It is possible to form a perfect sentence, to get a 10 out of 10, A+, 4.1 sentence, and you can do it every single time. And once you get the simple sentence down, you can take that knowledge and that technique and apply it to the other types of sentences, and you can have a perfect sentence every single sentence. And it doesn't matter whether your writing is 5 pages or a couple paragraphs, or as I did through law school, 25 pages a piece of just research. Every single sentence will be absolutely perfect. So the formula, we want to make sure that when we're writing, when we go to construct, to form, to formulate our simple sentence from scratch, use this formula. Again, this is just my own personal formula. It is what I like to teach in my classroom. You may have seen it other ways elsewhere. That is completely fine. If this doesn't work for you, change it up a little bit and find what does work for you. But this works for me and my students. To form a simple sentence, you want a subject, so I just use an S, a capital S. S plus a V, I use a capital V for verb, equals an equal sign, because remember our formula is S plus V, and then you ask yourself a what, and that gives you the object. S plus V equals our object, our O, our capital O, and then N punctuation. S plus V equals O, N punctuation. That's 4 of our 5 elements. Remember, we don't want to forget the element of complete thought. Again, you're not writing anything for complete thought, so off to the side, I like to do it either after the period or over here at the beginning. So somewhere outside of your sentence so that you're not scribbling within the confines of your period, of your end punctuation. If you put it to the end like I like to do, I put a capital C and a capital T for complete thought. And then right under that, I write 1 for 1 main point, and then a question mark with an X over it to symbolize no unanswered questions. I like to abbreviate this way. You don't have to abbreviate at all, or you can find a different way to abbreviate, but make sure some way or another you're getting all 5 of these elements in. So your actual sentence itself, your simple sentence, will have 4 spaces, a space for your subject, verb, object, and end punctuation. Again, don't write anything before the subject. And if you're going to put anything after the object, make sure it's no more than 2, maybe 3 words. And the words need to support the object. They need to further define the object. If you're talking about the breakfast you had this morning, and breakfast is your object, the 2 or 3 words that follow the object need to further talk about breakfast. Don't talk about anything else, otherwise you may introduce another main point, and we don't want to do that. Don't add anything before your object at this point. Separating the verb and the object is where a lot of students go wrong. It isn't wrong to add a couple words here, but at this beginner stage when we're trying to form a perfect sentence for possibly the first time ever, we want to eliminate as many distractors as possible from helping us reach our end goal. If our end goal is a perfect sentence, all you need is to fill in 4 spaces, a subject, verb, object, and an end punctuation. Okay, don't forget to go back and do your mental check to make sure you have your complete thought, the 2 sub-elements of 1 main point, and no unanswered questions. A simple sentence is not where you pose the question and answer it. That's a different sentence type. In a simple sentence, you aren't posing any questions. You're not straight out asking any questions. Here in academics, we're not. If you're doing creative writing or a different kind, absolutely, you can say, what did you have for breakfast? That is a perfect simple sentence. You can end it with a question mark. In academics, we're not going to be asking questions. More likely than not, 99% of the time, we're going to just be making statements. We're going to be making statements about research, about in our essays, personal statements, college essay statements, anything that is a statement. With these 5, again, review them if there's any that you don't remember. Again, your subject is a noun or a pronoun. Your verb can be one of 3 types. Then your noun or pronoun again, and your end punctuation, and then do a mental check that you have a complete thought. These combined is a simple sentence. As a review, a simple sentence is the most basic type of sentence. The definition: a simple sentence is an independent clause with end punctuation. An independent clause has 4 elements: a subject, a verb, an object if it's academic writing, and a complete thought. A complete thought has 2 sub-elements, both of which need to be met, and they are no unanswered questions, and one main point. Clauses themselves, if you will remember, never have punctuation. The difference between an independent clause and a simple sentence is simply the end punctuation. If you take a perfectly written independent clause and slap a period on the end, you have now upgraded from an independent clause to a simple sentence. In the hierarchy of English grammar, clauses are below sentences. Our end goal is to form some sort of sentence, whether it's a simple, a compound, a complex, or one we're not even going to learn in this class. Our end goal is sentences. Right below that is an independent clause. Right below that is a dependent clause. And below that are fragments, phrases, and other things that we'll cover in other modules. So remember your hierarchy. Our goal is to form sentences. Every sentence has at least 5 elements, including end punctuation. Our clauses will never have end punctuation, and an independent clause never poses a question. It never poses an unanswered question. It doesn't use any subordinating conjunctions, so remember that is not part of a simple sentence. That is useful for a dependent clause, not an independent clause, and we'll get into that in this very next couple modules. You also don't want to use any conjunctions at all unless you're talking about a list. In an independent clause, you also won't have any sort of internal punctuation unless, again, you're doing a list. For example, I went to the grocery store and bought apples, bananas, and oranges. I still have one main topic, which is going to the grocery store. However, while I was at the grocery store, I bought 3 different items. That is perfectly fine. You can use the commas here because your commas are separating items from a list. However, remember that another function of commas, another job commas have, is to separate clauses. Because a simple sentence only has one clause and it's an independent clause, you don't have anything else to separate the independent clause from. With that, make sure that you're not putting commas to cause any kind of separation outside of a list. If you're making a list, a comma is fine. If you're not making a list, your simple sentence should not have any commas. Outside of a sentence, it should not have the word but, and, or any other conjunction in it. It should be very simple. It should take you back to your childhood where you daydreamed all day in class and you read books like See Spot Run. Very simple. If it is any more complex, if it's anything that you wouldn't pick up out of a middle school child's book and see written on their pages, you likely don't have a simple sentence. So keep it very basic. Again, we will use our simple sentences to build up and combine the elements to make more sophisticated sentences in these next modules. This is everything you need to know about a simple sentence. It is now time to take the quiz. Go through any handouts and practice the worksheet, and practice until you get a 100%. Practice identifying the different parts of the sentence, our subject, verb, object, our end punctuation, our complete thought. Make sure you really have that down and mastered before you move on. Make sure that you can construct your own simple sentences. Again, I get it that in theory, it seems so easy, but I've spent entire semesters with college level students trying to perfect their simple sentence, and it is not as easy as it seems. If you can get it down this first time around, or if you already have a perfect command of that, that is fantastic. Most people do not. Most people don't. They don't realize that their simple sentences either aren't simple, they're not sentences, or they're grammatically incorrect. So take the time and invest in yourself. The simple sentence is the best gift you can give yourself and your writing. Once you're done, I will go through the answers with you as always, and hopefully answer any questions that you encounter along the way. Up next is compound sentences.